Hey YouTubers, welcome back. This is video number 22 of Small Engines Questions and Answers for Friday, November 12th, 2010. I'm actually filming this on November 11th, and we've had some very nice weather all week. Apparently after the weekend, it's going to go to winter. First question today is a lot of people have been asking what size of rope to use in their lawnmowers. The rope that I commonly use in lawnmowers is a number 4.5 and it's a 9/64th diameter. So here's a roll of it, 4.5 or 4.5. You don't want to use a rope that's much bigger than that because it may not rewind itself properly in the recoil. Now a lot of YouTubers have been asking me what kind of wrenches are these behind me right here. Well, these are all Mastercraft. They're kind of like buying them from Sears, but it's a Canadian store here. And they're Mastercraft Maximum. Apparently they're a professional series. They are all warranted for life. So if you break one, you just go back to the store and they'll give you one right on the spot. So I've got all my standard sizes up top here. And I've got all my metric down here. It's a lot easier to work when you know where each wrench is. You see there on the wall, it all came in one kit. I got it on sale for 60-70 bucks. They're usually almost twice that, and I'm pretty happy with them. You can go on their website, canadiantire.ca, and you're going to see these wrenches on there. Now the next question is also a question that I often get, and someone's asking me if most clutches on chainsaws are reverse thread or left-handed thread. The answer to that is yes. Most of the time they are a reverse thread on clutch, and I'll show you on a chainsaw here the reason for that. Now since the engine spins clockwise in this direction here, if it were regular threads you'd have to turn it clockwise to tighten it up, and then it would spin this way, therefore going with the threads, and what would happen is the clutch would get loose, fall off, and fall apart. Now you see that little arrow here, it shows you the direction to turn to take it off, and you can see you have to turn clockwise to remove it. Now by having to screw on the clutch counterclockwise, or in reverse thread fashion, so it will tighten itself up automatically. So when you're using the chainsaw and there's force on the clutch, so it helps keep the clutch really tight on the shaft and it's never going to come off. It's a very simple remedy to prevent your clutch from falling off. So always remember when you go to remove the clutch, look for the arrow. If you cannot see an arrow, assume that it is a left-handed thread clutch. Now I do have videos posted that show how to remove a chainsaw clutch. You can go to my channel, search through my videos, and you're definitely going to find a video on how to do this. Now my next question for today is people often ask me what kind of spark plug should I use in my snowblower with a Tecumseh engine. So if your snowblower has a Tecumseh engine like this, it's going to say Tecumseh on the recoil. And if it's not an overhead valve like this one is a flathead. Then what you're going to need is an RJ19LM Spark Plug made by Champion, or you can cross-reference this to NGK V6S. And you can set the gap here at 0.030. Usually right out of the package, they're usually good to go. Now on this old snowblower here, it's a 5 horsepower Tecumseh engine with points. It's got a Champion J8C spark plug. And this spark plug here is a bit longer than the RJ19LM spark plug. Now also some of the older Tecumsehs which don't have points will have an RJ17LM spark plug. The RJ19LM spark plug is a bit hotter than the RJ17LM Champion spark plug. Now if you got a newer snowblower with an overhead valve engine, it's usually a Champion RC12YC or an RC14YC spark plug. Make double sure, take your plug out, look at a number, and match it up at a store. Now the next question I have today, someone's asking me, is there a gasket that goes between the muffler and the engine on the Tecumseh 8 to 10 horsepower engine? So again, we're talking about the same snowblower engine here that I just showed you the spark plug on. And it's this type of muffler here. Well, the answer to that question is there's no gasket that goes there. Even when you buy a new muffler, you will not find a gasket in the box. And I've taken a lot of these mufflers off, even new machines, and I've never found the gasket over here that goes there. This little flange here probably seals all the exhaust in there. I've never had a problem with them. Make sure your muffler doesn't get too loose because then it's going to leak over here. And as usual, be careful not to pry too hard on the bolts because sometimes they break right in the head. So again, this answer is only for the 8 to 11 horsepower Tecumseh engine that are not overhead valve. If you're not sure if your engine has a gasket there, get the model and serial number, go to a small engine shop with it, and they will look it up for you and tell you if there is indeed a gasket that goes there. My last question today, somebody has a Poulan Pro chainsaw and he's having problems with the carburetor. This is not a Poulan Pro, by the way, I'm just using it to show you a similar saw. Poulan Pros are usually yellow. Now this YouTuber's chainsaw is relatively new. Starts up and runs good, but when he lets go of the trigger after it's been running full speed, the chain stops and then it speeds up again for about 15 seconds and then stops again. He says it's kind of like an afterburn, and he was wondering if I had any ideas on why I would do this. Well, actually I had the same chainsaw last year. It was a Poulan Pro PP4218 AVX or something like that, and I had that same problem, and the only way I could fix that was by replacing the whole carburetor. I tried rebuilding it, cleaning it, I took it apart 4 or 5 times and still had the identical problem that this YouTuber mentions. Now these chainsaws have a Zama carburetor. I believe it's a W26A carburetor. You can get them fairly cheap on eBay. Actually, I saw one on Mowers for You last year for about 30 bucks, so that's pretty cheap for a carburetor. If you put a new carburetor, that should fix your problem. Sometimes there's a defect in them when they come out of the factory, and no matter what you do to them, you're still going to have a problem with them. And that can be a safety hazard if your chainsaw is sitting there and all of a sudden it starts idling fast. Now before you buy a new carburetor, you can start by looking at much easier things like the fuel lines, the fuel filter, and the primer. Check all that. If that's all good and you've rebuilt the carburetor or did all you could to it, it still won't work, then get a new carburetor. Well, that concludes the video for today. Thanks again for all the comments. I've been really busy in the last week or two, so I haven't had as much time to answer questions, but keep them coming. I will get to them. If I don't get to them, just send me back the question at a future date, and if I have time, I will answer it for you. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.